Hi there, welcome to my channel. My name is Kresley and this is Books Forever After, where I sit on my floor, we talk about everything and all things books and nothing but the books. Today we're going to talk about my recent reads from October and November. And before we go any further, can I just get a round of applause? I actually am doing a recent reads. For those of you who don't know, I don't think I had done like a recent reads until like May. And the May one I did was like July or August when I did that one. So yeah, if we're going with my track record, it's not great. Needless to say. So yeah, we're not gonna talk about. So over the next couple of weeks, especially during my downtime for the holidays, I'm gonna catch up 2 months at a time. So we'll do June, July, and August and September. So not exactly in that order. So we'll have 2 more recent reads before we do like end of year stuff. So yeah, so thanks for bearing with me and thank you for your patience. Well, anywho, if you don't have all the time in the world to wait on me to do recent reads, I do have my Goodreads linked down below. Will have my Instagram, and I do share Instagram. I have a highlight saved for 2024 reads. I think I actually have for 23 and 22 as well. So anytime you want to see what I read for a month, and I usually generally have star ratings on those. But if you want to know my actual rating for any of these books in real time, or as close to real time than YouTube, that's for sure, you can go ahead and go to my Goodreads and you can just check the books I read and my ratings. And I generally do have some sort of short review depending on the situation. Sometimes it's just a star. Now let's get into these books. So, oh gosh, and this is part of my problem, is at the end of the month my brain and like just every book I read, like I know how I felt about the book, but all of a sudden every like recap synopsis of what I read and how I felt about it and certain things just goes boop out the window. So that's why it makes recent reads kind of hard to do, but I still want to talk about the books. It's like it never ending. It's like a catch-22. Well, in the months of October and November, it's the fall. It was a fall season, and no shortage of being in the mood for a spooky or gothic-y kind of mood. Now, I read a lot of gothic books in September for the romance readathon, which I will cover those in the next recent reads. So I read a lot of those. Now, I didn't read too many. In October, I read 6 books and I had 1 DNF. And then in November, I read 5 books in total. Now, that's a little less than I'm normally doing. I'm doing at least 8. And it's kind of feeling a little slumpy. And I don't know. I think part of it was just like my busy time of the year for the holidays, like just the end of the year, and my work life is very busy. And then also this year in the US, it was a little stressful. We had the election. Well, there's an election every year, but this year was the presidential election, and just a little stressed, you know. So let's just say it has been a fun time. So I'm sure some of those books that I've read probably were affected by that time, especially early November. So we'll just get started and talk about these books. So all in total, I really only have 11 or 12 books to talk about, which is okay because I do tend to ramble, as proven in this intro. October the 6th, books I read. I did have 1 DNF, and that was Painted Scars by Neva Altaj. That was part of the orange on the book cover collab that we were doing for like an Unstuff your Kindle deck. So as we know, those have not been very well done for me. So this book was no exception. Now I did actually was successful this time in doing and completing a vlog, because what I'm finding in a lot of these Unstuff your Kindle vlogs, which is kind of a play from the Stuff Your Kindle days, those are just not really doing so well for me. It's definitely made me more selective in the books that I get from Stuff Your Kindles and those free books kind of deals. So with that out of the way, I do have a vlog. I'll link that down below for you guys to refer. I'm just going to mention these. I really don't talk about them much already in that vlog. I don't want to talk about them again, to be honest. Nah, at least one of them I will. But so the first one was, as I said, Painted Scars by Neva Altaj. This is at 53%. Now this is a Brafa mafia romance. I haven't really read a mafia romance since, oh gosh, Mafia Mistress by, oh gosh, it's Joanna Shoop's pen name, Mila whatever. I really haven't read much from mafia, although I do enjoy them. I just hadn't been in the mood for them lately, and this one did not help that at all. So it's very short. I know this series is well beloved by a lot of people I follow on BookTube, but it just didn't work for me. I just couldn't get over the writing. It felt too simple, felt too technical. That's really, in a nutshell, the problems I had with it. The one I did finish and enjoyed was Nobody's Duke by Scarlett Scott, which is a historical romance, and I rated that a 4 stars. So this is an indie author, and this has been compared. It's very, very similar, with a similar trope and kind of second chance, childhood friends to lovers, and revenge plot kind of scenario, from very similar to, again, The Magic by Lisa Kleypas, which is like one of my all-time favorite historical romances ever. The Highwayman by Kerrigan Byrne is pretty even keel, if not leading the charge in that currently. So definitely it was good. I didn't love it, and I think part of it was the romance started to dwindle. Didn't feel like there was less stakes or just as much tension about halfway through the book. It's very, very spicy, so, which is a very kind of rare thing to find in historical romance, where there's a lot of scenes. Usually there's like, it's usually like 2 chili peppers, most 2 or 3 scenes of that. This one had at least 4 at least. And then I just kind of wrapped up way too much at the end, way too quickly. It just felt very anticlimactic, and that's why it was a 4 star for me. And then I read my first, these are totally out of order, but I read my first graphic novel, which was a historical romance. I went to the library with my son, and I was just like, you know what, I want to try a graphic novel. And this one caught my eye first, and that was Ruined. I don't know, there's like multiple different creators or authors on it. It was a 3 star. It was good. It was okay. The graphics or the art in it was a little bit, could be desired upon, but it had a marriage of convenience. Yeah, to be honest, it's kind of forgetful, and which is sad to say, but there we go. And then I think the first book I actually finished that month was The Coven by Harper L. Woods. Now I did pick this up at Target, and this will be in my book haul coming to you soon, and it has the beautiful sprayed edges. Now, very Sabrina the Teenage Witch vibes, very that, very CW, if you know what I'm talking about for that. So good, ish. This was a 3 star. I say ish, so good, and like an ish with caveat. Let me explain. Beginning of this, I felt kind of lackluster. At first, there was this misconception that the heroine was 16, and if you know me, that's not what I want to read about, especially for an adult book, adult romance. However, it is not. The heroine is 20 years old. There's just some bad, poorly like edited areas in this book, but I was like, whoa, Nelly, hold on a second, what was that? So he is actually 20. Now this follows the heroine who is trying to escape like the wards for the protection that her mom has done, trying not to become part of this world, and so she's actually brought into the fold for this academy. She does not escape, as we know, and kind of like a very witchy academy kind of scenario. And there this is where witches and like I said, very Sabrina Teenage Witch, and like these vessels which kind of have these like vampire, like they kind of are like vampires, and it's a romance between her and the headmaster, which is one of these vessels. A lot of like family ties and family drama and like things kind of unfolding in there. Very like dramatic in that way. Now this is short. This is not for really anything else much than for entertainment and for that CW vibe that it gives. However, I could see why people don't like this, but for me, it was until the very last few, like 80% of this, and really at the end, where I actually was like, okay, the vibes of this really make sense. And the hero here, he is not morally gray. He is not, you know, your dark, I mean, he's dark haired, but he's not like your typical hero where he's morally gray, but he's really not. He's like a Seminole. No, he's a villain. He's a villain. So that is why this is truly like a dark romance for me too. So enjoyed. I do want to read a second one. I did purchase the second one as well, and I was debating on even picking this up or buying it because of that, but the sprayed edges were so pretty and I really enjoyed it. I just wanted to continue because it was just, it has the elements of a toxic romance and in the contemporary that we love, know and love. Yes. So it was good. I'm not, it was fun. Even though it's a 3-star. But you know what I mean? Sometimes the 3 stars are just still widely entertaining. And sometimes that's all we need. Alright, and then I read for my thriller, my one thriller of the year, as we know that I've mentioned before, was Ghost Station. It's a Ghost Station by S.A. Barnes. Now this is like a sci-fi psychological thriller. And this is by S.A. Barnes. And I gave this one a 3-star. Now, I loved the first book I read by this author. And I don't know if it's technically like in the same world, but it is the ghost ship in space kind of scenario, and I forget, it's called Dead Silence. That is so good. Okay, if you're going to read by this author, read Dead Silence via audiobook and thank me later. Okay, now this one I read via audiobook as well. I did try to check it out from the library. I just couldn't get into it physically. I feel like audiobooks for me are preferable with this author. It's kind of boring. For the most part, it's dragged. And yeah, that's all I gotta say. It dragged. I don't know if I'll continue reading from the author because this was just so meh. But the first book I read by her was a 4-star and I really enjoyed it. I didn't absolutely love it, but I really enjoyed it. Now she does have another one coming out in 2025, which I might keep an eye on. It's, I forget, it has this, you'll see the picture there. I forget what it's about exactly, but it has a very similar like formula I'm starting to see. So I think maybe that's why is it's starting to have a certain formula to things that I just don't enjoy. And then in October I have 2 more that I read. I read A Hunger Like No Other by Kresley Cole. This was 4 stars. I read this as part of our Mood Readers book club, which actually was the last book club we read for 2024. This is where I co-host this book club with April. This is an OG campy paranormal romance. It's very spicy. And this is the first in a long line of interconnected standalones by this author. I think this series is like literally 12 books long. And I forget the exact name at the top of my head of the series, but I definitely am intrigued to continue on. I will link our live show down below for you to get any more of our thoughts on this, but it was good. This is where a half vampire, half Valkyrie is fated with a werewolf, and it kind of just goes from there. And they travel, he kind of kidnaps her and they travel to his Scottish estate. He had kidnapped her as he was escaping being a prisoner for like centuries by these warring vampire clan kind of situation. and you know, things go from there. So really good. She's you know, it's kind of like almost like a time travel because he's been held down there so long that he's not up with the culture and up with the times. So it was kind of really cool to have that kind of a spin on it because it felt like a time travel because of that. And then lastly in October, I read Phantasma by Kaylie Smith. I had picked this up in a Walmart. I mean, just kind of blew up. I'm sure it probably started for book topic or whatever, but I just kind of started seeing a lot on Instagram and YouTube, and it was just the book releasing around for Halloween, and it was just a lot of fun. If you like Caraval and you like Hunger Games, this was like the ultimate mishmash. This was a lot of fun. I didn't necessarily like Caraval, but this was the adult kind of Caraval vibes that I could definitely get behind. This was 4 stars. It was a lot of fun. Very similar to Caraval, where the sister has some debt and such, and so her sister has entered herself for these deadly trial games where you fight to the death, and the person that wins gets to win, like, I think like some prize. It's very, very spicy. There's like these trials, and this the game is called Phantasma, and there's like these 9 levels of trials, very similar to the 9 circles of hell. And she encounters a phantom. It was fun. It was good. I think the trials for me, the reason why I wasn't a 5-star, they kind of got redundant, and even the spicy scenes got a little bit redundant and repetitive. So because of that, it became very exhausting, and when some of those, I think we could have just quickly went over those trials just a little bit quicker, because there was 9, but other than that, it was a fun time. I don't know if it's something that I will reread, but I do know there is a second book coming out that's going to be following the sister as she goes and I think visits like a haunted mansion or something like that, so that's kind of cool. In November, I read those 5 books. I read A Queen of Thieves by K.A. Tucker. This is the 3rd book in this quartet. Only have the 4th and final book to read, which I do have, hopefully being able to read from the library very, very soon. But who knows, I might delay that because this one kind of lost my steam a little bit. Now, this kind of, for a 3rd book in a series, kind of had that second book syndrome, mainly because I felt that the balance between a romance and the fantasy world building was lacking, and this aspect, the romance, was kind of being overshadowed or taken by the outside plot and, you know, world building. And primarily because in this book, in the 1st book you get the heroine's point of view, in the 2nd book you get her and the mailman character, and then in this one you start getting like, there's like 4 or 5 point of views, and it becomes, or points of view, and it becomes a little bit annoying. It's especially when you're following a character you hate. So that's kind of my beef, is I'd rather just have the dual point of view and continue that. And because of that, you lost a lot of the, I want to say, connection with the main female character, and you just, if the writing style started shifting more towards like an outside looking in kind of scenario, and then lost the connection with the characters. The character development is still there, it's just felt very, like I always say, removed, and I don't like that. I want to be in there. I want to be, yes, observing, but I want to feel like I got a front row seat to everything. I don't want to feel like I got the nosebleeds watching, you know, reading this book. So that's kind of what I felt like with this one. A lot of discoveries in here are dragons, so this is really awesome. But yeah, very excited for final, because there was a cliffhanger at the end of this, and it was like an oh crap moment. So I'm going to be interested in seeing how it revolves in the 4th and final book. The next, I don't have a physical copy as it was a ebook arc from the publisher. I had actually received via email a request to read this book, which is funny, via NetGalley, because I don't outside looking in, my NetGalley number is not great at all. I haven't requested too many, but because I haven't really read the ones, because I kind of lost steam with those, I lost interest in the ones that I had, so it's kind of funny, and I'm kind of shocked that they had me read it. But I did read this one, and It was a 3-star. So this one is The Road of Bones by Demi Winters. This is what I've been seeing on BookTube, that a lot of people like this and enjoy it, but for me, I guess I'm the outlier. I didn't really enjoy it that much. And I think it has to be said was, I don't know if this was in the trigger warnings, I'll have to double check, but there is, if domestic abuse or violence is a trigger for you, that was kind of prevalent throughout this book, and I think that's probably why it turned me off. It was kind of icky. It had kind of the same problems of the previous book I was just mentioning. Is this very, the writing style I think was just not for me. It was removed. The way that the characters were being written and the plot being written about, there's something about it I didn't really enjoy fully. I'm still intrigued on like what exactly the plot is leading to that we left off in the book, but it has that found family feeling that I was hoping to get, but really not, because you don't get to know the characters too much except for 2 of the male characters or and her one friend. So it just something about it I didn't enjoy. Now this is following the main female character. Like I said, I read this a month ago. I don't remember the exact name, but she is on the Road of Bones. She is, due to circumstances that happen, her and her father were traveling frequently, but due to circumstances that happen, they are separated, and she has to survive on her own with this Road of Bones, and she happens upon this group of individuals, let's just say, in a world where having this sort of magic is kind of forbidden, and they're essentially burnt, like thrown stones at or burnt at the stake kind of situation for people who have this kind of magic or whatever. Which, I mean, anyone who knows my reading taste, I mean, sign me up. I love that kind of, that really intrigues me. And it's it's forced proximity traveling. This one, there was romance, but there wasn't romance. There was romantic elements, but it wasn't a romance. So of course, you know, this is a series, so I'm sure that that will develop over time and maybe it's spread across of it. I didn't enjoy the romance in here. Due to spoilers, I won't kind of like mention that, but you know, kind of delve too far into that, but that's kind of what it is mainly. And I think maybe it's also it just felt very, very long. And this may be also a product of when I was reading this, I was reading this throughout the whole election kind of, US election kind of situation, so that may be part of it as well. But yeah, this was a 3-star. It was okay. I may or may not continue on, but at this moment, I'm not sure. And then I finally completed a YA series or trilogy by Jennifer L. Armentrout. It's part of my YA series spinner wheel kind of thing that I do to try to get through some YA series. And this is Every Last Breath. This is the 3rd book in the Dark Elements series. Now this is just like a YA paranormal kind of situation with gargoyles, angels, demons, and that kind of scenario. So it was okay. This one was a 3-star. So like I said, very something. It's just nothing was inherently bad. It was just not inherently good either, or where I really enjoyed myself. So this was okay. Most of the time I was enjoying like the first 2 books for like 4 stars, but this one just ended on a like meh kind of note, where I wasn't really interested in continuing on. There wasn't a lot of like tension or like chemistry between the characters, the love interest. And yes, it's a YA, but you can still have chemistry and tension and angst and yearning. That's really what I love about reading romance. It's not the spice, it's the actual chemistry and the character growth and development. That's really what it is. So that just really wasn't hearing me where I really cared about their romance anymore, or really the plot in general. But yeah, it was okay. And yeah, I read it, and I'm glad I read it because I still want to keep reading YA and also this author's backlist because I do enjoy this author's writing. This one just didn't work for me. And then throughout all that, let's just say we ended on a high note for the most part, for November. And my regularly scheduled programming was interrupted by these books, and I am the better for it, let's just say. My Libby hold came in for the ebook, and that is what started this whole thing. Because I have been waiting months to read this book, and this took up, like, I was voraciously reading this book, and that is Hills of Shivers and Shadows by Pam Godwin. 5 freaking stars, guys. 5 freaking stars. I also read book 2, Cage of Ice and Echoes by Pam Godwin. Now you're asking, well, Crystal, didn't you read that on Libby? Yes, I did. I did. I was able to read book 1 and most of book 2 on ebook, because as soon as I was able to finish this one, I was a few days later able to check out this on the Libby app. But you bet your bottom dollar, I ordered these books from the author's website, and that's why they took a little longer, and got these signed by the author. So these are signed because let's see here, because very similar to Flock, like these literally just, I compulsively could not stop reading. These were so good. This is dark. This is a more dark psychological thriller kind of dark romance, and which is also a white shoes, and so good. Now, Pam Godwin, she's a goddess. Okay, so whoever said that romance books with spice, with an actual HEA, not just a love story like Nicholas Sparks or whatever, can't be critically acclaimed and win awards, has never read this book, or has read such a well-written romance book. I'm telling you, this is right up there. Right up there. Now this follows Frankie, and she has just found out she's pregnant. And she is, when she tells her husband, who's like a billionaire kind of guy, he wants her to not carry on with the pregnancy. And so they have a fight. And so because of that, she wants to leave him. And on the night that she is wanting to leave him, she gets kidnapped and taken. And it's made in such a way, because she was preparing to leave, it looks like she left on her own. Now she is taken away in this remote cabin in Alaska, where this man wants to kidnap her, and for reasons unknown, you don't know exactly why he's bringing her to them, potentially, but they don't want her there, but she doesn't know exactly why she's there. Sort of, yes, but we don't know as things unfold. Now, this is very insidious, very dark, and yeah, so check your content warnings, because there's a lot. But it was good, and I was kind of unsure that I may or may not like this because of that, and I absolutely adored Sea of Ruin, but Dark Notes was too much for me, mainly because of the age of the heroine. And it just felt like the hero was just not good. It felt very predatory. So because of that, so 2 very different feelings that I have of this author's work, of ones I've read so far. But this one, so good. So good. I am currently reading the 3rd one slowly. Not because of anything with the books, but because of my time schedule. Just because of my reading schedule, but I'm also doing, reading romantasy as my readathon right now. But this is so good. I mean, this one, just heartbreaking. Heartbreaking. The connection that Frankie has developed. It's very, things that are revealed. Yeah. And then this one is just really it's like a story of survival, and trying to survive and developing feelings and loving each other through all of this survival kind of situation. So together. So yeah, it was good. It was good, guys. Alright, so that is all the books. I mean, I talked only about 11, 12 books, but I rambled so long. Anyway, those are all the books that I read in October, November. As always, I will have my links down below. Let me know if you read it or enjoyed any of these, or ones that you are wanting to put on your TBR. With that, thank you for watching, and I will see you in my next one. Bye.